You know what Pokemon HM Sheth would be if we were to pick game number 2 out? He'd be Strength.
Really?
Because he just strengthed his way back into the series.
You'd be Psyduck.
He powerlifted. What?
Okay, I'd be Alakazam. You'd be Psyduck right now.
Me? Because you make my head hurt? Is that what it is? Got him. Let's introduce our players. Starting in the top right, we have MorroW. That was pretty good. You got to admit.
Not nearly as you would think.
Is the yellow Terran in the top right corner. Against Sheth in the top left from Team Liquid, the purple Zerg. You said you picked Sheth for this series, right?
I did.
And I picked MorroW?
You picked MorroW.
Okay. It's really close. Either way, both players, based off their play, are deserved. It could go either way. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Yes.
We see MorroW is going for an 11 racks. And I told Andre that on Shakura's Plateau, 2 racks has been really strong choice for MorroW. This is what he did to Idra. And he's going to go 11-11. I wasn't sure if he was going to go 12-14. But
did this to Idra, he did this to Targa.
Yes.
And we don't see a drone scout over here, but the Overlord is shuffling through. And he will be able to see the supply depot, but he has to go downwards if he wants to see the barracks. This is actually very uneasy for Sheth, I think. I think he'll actually see this in time. He does make a 14 spawning pool, or it looks like he's about to, because he hasn't made any more drones. This is the correct decision, obviously. Shakura's Plateau oftentimes shows a double 11-11. But Sheth goes over the 1 supply depot. He's not even going to bother to go to the bottom. He scouts with a drone, and there you are. Double racks. And he's like, yes, I want the perfect build for this.
And this is going to be really tough for Sheth to handle now. This is perfectly acceptable. The only question is, how many SUVs will MorroW send with this rush? He's sending only 1. Now, we've seen players send up to 5 at one point. I know Artist, who was on Team Eclipsia, sends 6 sometimes, just to really make sure. But, of course, Artist was fantastic with his 2 racks abilities. Sheth really chasing down these SCVs, making sure that he doesn't ever get room enough to start the bunker. But we see first Zerglings are in queue immediately, as MorroW is sending 4 SCVs, so this rush is looking pretty devastating. This is a huge part of his economy, so this rush has to work.
Oh, beautiful. Spinecrawler gets put up immediately. Now he's trying to section off everything to put a 3rd bunker down. But he's not going to do that because the creep is already out, and now the Zerglings are out.
He gets a decent surround on the Marines. In fact, he gets a great surround, and all of a sudden MorroW got shut down on half of his units. Now he does have a couple more Marines in the reinforcements. Does manage to pick off some of the Zerglings, but the 1 bunker is about to finish. And that 1 bunker will be really strong anchor point. Now the Spinecrawler does outrange it as long as you're able to
Oh, he gets the SCV! That's a big pickoff! Because that 1 bunker can actually range the hatchery. Wow, absolutely phenomenal. That was like the perfect timing. He got that. If it was a second too late, it would have been all over. But or not all over, but Sheth would have been in a lot more trouble than he is right now.
Now, Sheth has this weird opportunity where he can run by, and you can see MorroW bringing down his SCVs just to make sure that Zerglings can't run by the barracks and inflict some damage. You can see the bunker immediately salvaged, and MorroW's on his way back home, trying to see if he can bait the Zerglings. This is a very awkward play from both players, trying to see if they can cut each other off in the end. Neither player really should commit to this attack. I think Sheth is going to overextend here and lose a lot of his Zerglings if MorroW can just kite back, but he's content with just picking off some of those Marines trading units at this point.
We'll see. I think he actually wants to engage right here. This is going to be tricky because they're in orange-yellow. If they weren't, I think he would be able to bring it. But SCVs are going to get into the fray. That'll help out quite a bit, as they are really nice tanks. You can easily just go hold position, and then the Zerglings will stop auto-attacking the SCVs. So
pretty comfortable drone advantage. And Shadow's like, that was crazy. Oh, never mind. Lag for you too, right? I thought he was saying that was crazy, like the Zerglings versus the Marines, because it was just so weird, like how they were trying to cut each other off at the same time. But we do see that in the end, Sheth does have a pretty comfortable worker advantage. MorroW does end up getting an expansion up and double gassing, so we will tech soon after this.
Sheth is in a really comfortable advantage with with what he has, just because obviously he's had his hatchery up a lot longer than his opponent relative to this command center. So it's a really comfortable position to be in. He can basically go anything he wants. I think actually double upgraded Zerglings are kind of the best way to go. And then actually, hear me out, Ferdinand. I'm actually going to say go Mutas. Double upgrade Zerglings with Mutas. That's a little weird, right? But at least you can start establishing your fourth base by going Mutas and shutting down Medivacs, especially with MorroW being so far behind in his, I guess, tech. Just knowing that he had to go delayed command center and then get his refineries. You know you're in a very comfortable position, both economically and technologically. Just go ahead and take both those advantages very, very nicely.
I like how you had a whole conversation with me without me saying anything the entire time. You're like, now Frodan, hear me out. And you're like, why would you say that? All this other stuff. So Andre, thank you so much for breaking that down. I think the important thing is you're right. Sheth does have that available to him. Mutas have been seeing kind of a weird... They're in a weird spot. They're kind of... they used to be really popular, and all of a sudden, they're not as strong as Infestor Play people realized. But even though they're not that strong, because they're so against the metagame, some Terrans don't react that strong, especially if you have an economic advantage. You can pump out Mutas before Terran can really respond well to it.
Well, they have different purposes. Their role is changing, which is really cool. Instead of actually being the aggressive role, keeping your opponent in the base, people are realizing, okay, Terrans know how to deal with that very effectively ever since the Triple Orbital Command Center came out, and your economy is really, really charged up, and you can get upgrades really nicely. All of a sudden, turrets defend against Mutas instead of Marines, keeping your opponent in. And they can take the third base pretty easily. So now it's actually relegated to more of removing Medivacs from the field. So when a drop comes through, normally it's Zergling, Roach, Infestors. Well, Infestors don't want to use the energy on those Medivacs, so now it's hard to actually deal with those Medivacs. So that's why we see Mutas come up in the recent metagame.
And we see MorroW going for Hellion Banshee. Now, this is an interesting mix. Marine King uses this kind of style, and the whole idea is to try to deny expansions from Zerg. And Sheth runs up the ramp to see pretty much nothing at this point, so Sheth didn't even get the gas count from his opponent yet. There's no third or fourth gas taken. But Hellion Banshee gives you pretty decent map control. You can really run around the Zerglings and kite for a long time. Banshees shut down the play, and if there's anything that ever tries to rush the Banshees, you can really keep the Hellions to just control the map that way. MorroW does have the third command center finishing up. He's getting Cloak. Ooh, okay, that's interesting there from MorroW, getting Cloak. Not a lot of players sometimes incorporate that into their Hellion Banshee, but I kind of like it. I want to see where this goes.
I do too. Unfortunately for MorroW, it got scouted out very easily with an Overlord over here on the right-hand side. So he is making Spore Crawlers. And I think... I don't know, this is kind of a tough position for Sheth to be in, because he's like, well, what is my opponent capable of? I've seen a factory with a reactor on it. I'm pretty much expecting something like Marine, Hellion, Marauder Hellion, that kind of mix. Maybe, a combination of all three of them. And then Banshees as well. So it is a kind of a difficult situation to be in when you're massing up in Zerglings. Normally you want to tech switch to something else. What is it going to be? Is it going to be Roaches or Infestors? If Infestors are a little bit later in the timing, but it just shows you how comfortable and confident Sheth feels right now.
Sheth's trying to see if he can run and catch the Hellions, but the Hellions really force themselves in a pretty great spot.
Oh no.
Making sure they don't get the surround. Oh, the Banshee trying to see if he can get into a good position, but look at how many Zerglings got cleaned up.
Yeah.
MorroW all of a sudden looking pretty fierce. Now Cloak also just finishing up, so that way he can keep his Banshees alive, and he picks up the Queen instead. This is looking very good for MorroW, and this is exactly why you want to use Hellion Banshee, controlling the map just like we were saying, and able to really shut down the ability to produce. This third base from Sheth is under heavy siege. Just starting 2 more Spore Crawlers because the one can't really get it done in time. And is Sheth bringing any Queens to really assist him? No, he can't really do that at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think he will, but there it is. Spore Crawler is going to unroot, and he's just going to ferry around it.
Man.
Beautifully played, but this does give a little bit of time for the Queen to pop out. Will pop out in time. Remember, there is Cloak up, and he goes for not the weakened one. Oh, the Spore Crawler. Okay. Wow, that is so close.
That was pretty clutch, but I mean, at the end, because that hatchery is so weak, MorroW can always just pop in there, snap it, and then immediately run back home. So now it becomes a forever liability to Sheth because of it. Oh, MorroW not paying attention to his Banshee, just not able to cloak it in time. And MorroW's going to use it to deny creep tumors, which is a cool follow-up, but just not, just a split second, not fast enough reaction time. MorroW going to gear up and start moving out to take his third base.
This is scary, though. I don't think that's a great time to take your base. Let me see if Centrifugal Hooks is actually upgraded. No, it is not, so you can't do a huge Zergling Baneling attack. So that's okay. Well, obviously that's better for MorroW. But they're in very equal supplies, but I will give the advantage to Sheth right now. The Shakur's Plateau shows a lot of really strong games for Terran. And now that he's established this base, he's actually able to take a very easy base over here, and that at the same time covers his main from drops from, well, mainly from drops and things like that. But you can see a lot of things coming. MorroW is in a great position to go into this game economically. That's why Sheth kind of needs to snap on something. He needs to say, hey, let's try to remove these units from the field. Let's try to get a lot of trades. That way I can get something like Hive Tech. That's going to be really, really powerful against your mid-tier tech.
And we see MorroW just going to be content with sitting back now. We see Sheth gearing up +2/+2. Adrenal Glands has all these upgrades lining up in timings, but MorroW's moving across the map and really leaving himself vulnerable at this moment. Sheth's going to try to move in immediately, and looks like Sheth is able to get around on some of the units. How is MorroW going to react? He has to make sure to protect him back at home. He's seen a lot of counterattacks succeed in the past, and you can see that for now, Sheth is more than content with working on some of these supply depots.
Rodan, Combat Shields isn't upgraded yet. He could have a beautiful surround right here with just mass Zerglings, and I think it might be enough, actually. Zerglings are going to get into this third base over here, but he's going to lose them here.
Oh my goodness.
So that gives up, well, he still has the surround capabilities.
Oh my gosh.
But
you know how many Zerglings Sheth had at on the field? Okay, he's got 120 at this point. But before that, he just lost like 20, so he had 140 at one point. He's still making more. This is absurd. And just making with pure Zerglings, Sheth is really pulling MorroW every which way. Now, big thing is that MorroW still has really stabilized, and he's really even gearing for a fourth base. And MorroW has control of the center, relatively speaking, which is a very important spot. We've seen Zergs, if they can't control the center, then all of a sudden they can get constantly pushed from a reinforcement point.
Oh, MorroW needs to be careful, actually. That, if Sheth chose to go in there, he would actually won because of his 2-2. Oh my god, Sheth is going to pick off a huge amount of units right here. And these Marines are absolutely dead. There's nowhere to run. Oh my goodness, that's a big, big win for him. He might actually move up. Nope, he's going to go back. And again, these Marines getting picked off 2-2 against 1-1. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, these Zerglings are absolutely chewing the Marines alive. I really thought MorroW had his 2-2 started up, but you're right. He doesn't have it whatsoever, and Zerglings can endure a lot of punishment. And as a result, you can see that despite the fact that MorroW has a center, his army strength isn't as intimidating as it should be.
Uh-oh. This Raven is spotting the infestors.
Oh, no. Oh.
That siege tank just paid for itself.
Yeah, killing off 2 infestors with almost full energy. That's absolutely great. And you can see MorroW controlling the high grounds by the watchtower with the tanks. Pretty cool play as well. Sheth does have a second Spire in production to see if he can go for double air upgrades. Blue is about to finish.
Wow.
Oh, wow. A great run by Sheth as well. MorroW not protecting his walls as valiantly as he should be at this point.
That displays a ton of units in the center of the map, but Sheth is still not looking to push forward. He's actually transitioning to Broodlords. There it is finally. And the Zerglings will get chomped up by the siege tanks on the high ground, so that's going to be pretty nice. Of course, they're going to be very susceptible to the Broodlords in a little bit. The Zerglings now going to the third base. There are no nope, there are units there. Sorry.
The units are getting there just in time. Now, something really big is that Sheth is getting ventral sacks as well. So he's going to increase his mobility a lot considerably in the fact. And we see a huge potential drop. It's a fake completely. I mean, it's not really doing anything at this point, but MorroW's like, oh my god, there's a lot of Overlords, and he's running as fast as he can. And look at that, Sheth with the Overlord finish.
That's so mean, man.
But it's so funny because now the next time he comes in, he's like, oh, is it for real or not? He doesn't know.
That's true. That's really
psychological mind games.
Oh my gosh, Frodo. Nice catch there. One thing about Sheth that I would be a little bit critical with him is he's not expanding even more. Normally you want to get as many expansions as possible, especially with your gas. I don't care about your minerals as much. You don't have to saturate that base, but at least get your 9th and 10th gases, because that's when you can really start exploding and transitioning very radically from mass broodlords to mass ultras, and then you catch your opponent on a composition advantage. So he hasn't done that just yet, but that's literally the only thing I can be critical of, because he's playing this beautifully since the beginning.
MorroW now losing center control because he hasn't really been able to do that. Sheth dropping creep tumors to extend his presence. Scans and sees the Broodlord force and where the infestors are positioned. What does he have in response to it? MorroW's got 100 Marines to try to see if he can pick off this army. And you can see he's got 1 Raven and 4 tanks. Can MorroW do it? Going to be really tough to tell. MorroW completely maxed out. And you can see this 3rd base from MorroW. He's trying to hold on to it with good repairs. But I feel like he doesn't really have an answer to the infestors. And if they catch him, he's going to be in a huge amount of trouble.
And I like the Baneling incorporation as well, because you can obviously put the Zerglings, or excuse me, put the Marines in place, and the Banelings can connect pretty nicely. And here it is.
You can see that MorroW splitting up his Marines, really trying to avoid the Banelings and the Fungals, but the Broodlords are doing so much anchor damage. MorroW immediately losing 56 supply in a blink of an eye. You can see, and most of that supply was in the tanks and Marines. More Broodlords in production for Sheth. His composition is screaming diversification at this point, or diversity. And you can see that MorroW doesn't have that much answer. He does have a Raven if he wants to try to be cute with some of the turret placements, but for now, MorroW only has Marines to answer to the might of Zerg. And that's not going to be enough, really. You can see Sheth raining down more of his Broodlords onto this 3rd, and if MorroW loses this 3rd, it's going to be extremely hard for him to get any traction towards the late game. And, I mean, does he have any answers? He doesn't even have Vikings out just yet. He has a couple, but he's trying to make something to answer, he can't really get to them because of the infestors.
I was going over this like theoretically and kind of practically. The only way to actually go mass Marines against a Zerg that is Broodlord Infestor is to get Ghosts and EMP or snipe every single Infestor and then empower your Marines. But with this, I mean, look at this. Everything gets cleaned up so fast. MorroW, he's going to tap out right here. GG, ladies and gentlemen. Sheth is your winner for this series. Finishes out 2-1 with a beautiful game on Shakura's Plateau. Absolutely wonderful play from him, stopping the 2 racks in the beginning, and then was able to just get the development advantage. Overall, the development advantage swung it into a win.
Yeah, so game number 1 was 50 minutes, game number 2 was like 35 minutes, and game number 3 was 25 minutes. We've easily totaled 100 minutes of game time just from the series alone. Guys, this was fantastic. And in the end, we pretty much hit every point, so let's talk about our sponsors. Thank you so much to Twitch for providing the stream, as well as everything for the subscriber pass, which if you are the ones that picked it up, lucky you. But if you haven't pick it up now, so that way you can watch the Sunday Showdown later tonight between Naniwa and Genius.